I spotted him across the street through the clinic window. My son, sitting at that outdoor cafe with a woman I'd never seen, both of them laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. He was wearing a leather jacket I'd never seen before. Expensive. The kind that costs more than our monthly grocery budget. I was sitting in the waiting room at the doctor's office, wrapped in my sunny yellow cardigan with pearl buttons, the same cardigan I'd worn every Thursday for the past 3 years, because it was warm and I didn't see the point in buying new clothes when these worked just fine. It was autumn, when the leaves fall and the light turns golden in the afternoon. And that particular Thursday, the light through the clinic windows made everything look soft and forgiving. But what I saw was sharp, crystal clear. My son, who'd told me that morning he'd be at work all day, who'd kissed my forehead and said he'd be home late, who'd reminded me to take my pills and not to worry about dinner because he'd pick something up. That son, right there. In the middle of the day, laughing. The nurse called my name twice before I heard her. My hands were shaking. I couldn't stop staring out that window. He ordered another coffee. The woman touched his arm. They looked comfortable together, familiar. Like this wasn't their first time meeting. My chest felt tight. Not the kind of tight that means you're having a heart attack. The kind that means something you've been trying not to know is forcing itself into the light. I followed the nurse down the hallway and I kept thinking about that leather jacket. About the woman. About the way he'd looked so relaxed, so unconcerned, so completely unlike the stressed and overwhelmed son who came home every night complaining about how hard he worked to support both of us. When he came home that evening to our duplex with a shared driveway and thin walls in Oakland, California, in that gentrifying area where old buildings meet new condos, he kissed my forehead just like always. He smelled like cologne. Not the cheap kind, the real kind. He told me he'd had a long day at the office, that he was exhausted. That work was killing him. I was standing at the stove stirring black-eyed peas cooking with a ham hock and I didn't turn around. I just said it. I think I saw you today. Downtown. At that cafe on Telegraph. He froze. I could feel it. The air in the kitchen changed. Then he laughed. That laugh he does when he's about to tell me I'm confused. Oh, Mom. That wasn't me. You know your memory isn't what it used to be. It was a coincidence, darling. You probably saw someone who looked like me. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say I know what my own son looks like. But the doubt crept in so fast. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe my eyes weren't as good as they used to be. Maybe that light through the window had played tricks. He was standing behind me now, his hand on my shoulder, his voice so gentle and patient. You've been forgetting things, remember? Last week you couldn't find your keys and they were in your purse the whole time. I nodded. I had forgotten where I put my keys. I had gotten confused about what day it was. Maybe I was getting worse. Maybe he was right. But that night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that leather jacket, the way he'd leaned back in his chair, the woman's hand on his arm. I got out of bed and walked through the duplex. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you notice things. I noticed the bills on the kitchen counter, that stack of unpaid bills held together with a rubber band. I noticed how thin the stack had gotten. We used to have more bills: mortgage, insurance, credit cards. Now there were just a few. Utilities. Phone. He'd told me he'd consolidated everything, made it simpler, easier for me to understand. I picked up the stack and looked through it. They were all in his name now. Everything. When had that happened? In my bedroom, the hymnal from my mother's funeral sat on the nightstand. I couldn't throw it away. She'd written notes in the margins, little prayers, reminders to herself to trust God even when things looked dark. I opened it and ran my fingers over her handwriting. I'd been reading it every night, the same hymns I sang every Sunday in the church choir. I'd been singing in that choir for 40 years. Soprano section, front row. I used to have solos. Now I just blended in, made myself small, didn't draw attention. When had that started? I thought about the first time my son suggested I might be getting confused. 2 years ago, maybe 3. He'd come home early from work and found me looking at old photo albums. I'd been crying, missing my husband, missing the life we'd had. He'd sat down next to me and said, "Mom, I'm worried about you. You're spending too much time in the past. You're forgetting things. Maybe we should talk to your doctor." I'd thought he was being caring, concerned. Now I wondered. Had I really been forgetting things? Or had he just started saying I was? The next morning, I made breakfast like always. Eggs, toast, orange juice. He came downstairs in a suit. A new suit. I'd never seen it before. "When did you get that?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "A few months ago. For work." "Don't you remember? I went shopping and told you about it." No, I didn't remember. But I also didn't remember him telling me about a lot of things anymore. He said it was because I didn't pay attention, that I was in my own world, that I needed to focus. I poured his coffee and I didn't say anything. He left for work and I stood at the kitchen window watching him get into his car. Not his old car. The beat-up Honda he'd driven for years. A newer car. A Nissan. Silver. When had he gotten that? I tried to remember. He'd said something about trading in the Honda, about getting a better deal, about how I'd signed the papers but probably didn't remember. The memory was fuzzy, like looking through fog. Had I signed papers? Maybe I had. I spent that morning cleaning the duplex, vacuuming, dusting, washing windows. I'd always kept a clean house. My husband used to say you could eat off our floors. I took pride in it. But lately I'd been tired. My son said it was because I was getting older, that I needed to slow down, that he'd hire someone to help with the cleaning, but we couldn't afford it. He'd shown me the budget, the numbers, how tight things were, how his salary barely covered both of us, how I needed to be careful with spending. So I kept cleaning myself, kept proving I was still useful, still necessary. If I couldn't clean, what good was I? After lunch, I walked to the church. It was only 6 blocks, but it took me 20 minutes. I wasn't moving as fast as I used to. The arthritis in my knees, the shortness of breath. Getting old, the doctor said. Normal. Nothing to worry about. The pastor was in his office and I knocked on the door. He smiled when he saw me. "Sister Eleanor, come in, sit down." We talked about the upcoming Sunday service, about the hymns we'd be singing. He asked about my son. "How's Marcus doing?" "Working so hard," I said. "Supporting both of us." "That boy is devoted to you," the pastor said. "You're blessed, but if you're genuinely listening to me right now, if you're really hearing this story, you know something was wrong. You can feel it. That little voice in your gut that says this doesn't add up." I'd been ignoring that voice for so long I'd almost forgotten it was there. I walked home slowly. The sun was getting low, that golden autumn light making everything look warm and gentle. I passed the cafe where I'd seen him, or thought I'd seen him. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at the outdoor tables, tried to picture it. Him sitting there, the woman, the leather jacket. Had it really happened? I was starting to doubt everything. That night he came home late, after 9. He said there had been a problem at work, a client meeting that ran long. He looked tired, stressed. He loosened his tie and asked what was for dinner. I'd kept a plate warm for him. Pork chops, rice, green beans. He ate quickly, barely tasted it. I sat across from him and watched. "Marcus," I said, "can we talk about money?" He looked up. "What about it? I just want to understand. The bills, the budget, where everything stands." He put down his fork. "Mom, we've been over this. You don't need to worry about it. That's my job. I'm handling it. But I want to know. I want to see the accounts. I want to understand what's coming in and what's going out." He sighed. That sigh that said I was being difficult, unreasonable. "We talked about this last month. You agreed to let me handle the finances because you were getting confused. The numbers weren't making sense to you anymore. Remember? I didn't remember. But I also didn't remember a lot of things anymore. Or so he kept telling me. He finished his dinner and went upstairs. I heard him on the phone, talking to someone, laughing. That same easy laugh I'd heard through the clinic window, or imagined I'd heard. I couldn't be sure anymore. I cleaned up the kitchen and went to bed early. Lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was losing my mind, wondering if I'd already lost it. Sunday morning, church service. I put on my Sunday dress, navy blue with white trim, the same dress I'd worn for 3 years. It still fit, still looked nice. I walked to church alone. Marcus said he had to work, even on Sundays now. That's how tight money was, how hard he had to work. I sat in the choir section, front row, soprano. We sang all 4 verses of Amazing Grace. I knew every word. I hit every note. My voice was still strong, still clear. After the service, people came up to me, told me how beautiful I sounded, asked about Marcus. Such a good son, they said. Taking such good care of you. You're so lucky. That afternoon I was restless. I couldn't sit still. I kept thinking about that cafe, about the leather jacket, about the new suit, the new car, the cologne, the phone calls, the late nights, the way he looked at me sometimes, like I was a problem he was managing, not his mother, just a problem. I walked through the duplex again, really looked at it this time. The furniture was different. Not all of it, but some pieces. The couch, the coffee table, the lamp in the corner. When had those changed? I tried to remember our old couch. Brown, worn, comfortable. This one was gray, modern, not my style. Had I agreed to new furniture? I must have. It was here. I opened closets, looked in cabinets. Everything felt unfamiliar, like I was living in someone else's house. The duplex we'd bought, my husband and me, 40 years ago. The deed had both our names. After he died, my name, just mine. That's how it worked. The house was mine. Marcus had moved back in to help me, to take care of me. That's what he'd said. But now I was trying to remember. Had I asked him to move in? Or had he suggested it? Had I wanted help? Or had he convinced me I needed it? Monday morning, I was supposed to go to the doctor again. Follow-up appointment. Marcus drove me. He was quiet in the car, distracted. I watched him drive, noticed his hands on the steering wheel, noticed his watch. When had he gotten that watch? It looked expensive. Stainless steel. Heavy. Not the kind of watch you buy when money is tight. Marcus, I said, that's a nice watch. He glanced at his wrist. Oh, this. It was a gift. From work. For my anniversary. 5 years with the company. I didn't know he'd been at that job for 5 years. I thought he'd switched jobs last year, or maybe the year before. I couldn't keep track anymore. In the waiting room, I sat in the same chair as last Thursday, the same sunny yellow cardigan with pearl buttons keeping me warm, the same autumn light through the windows. But this time I was watching, really watching, looking for him, looking for that cafe across the street. The outdoor tables were empty, too cold now. The season was changing. Fall was turning to winter. I felt something settle in my chest, a kind of certainty. I had seen him. I knew I had. My memory wasn't that bad. Not yet. The doctor examined me, asked the usual questions. How are you feeling? Any changes? Any concerns? I told him I was fine, healthy, strong. He nodded, wrote notes. You're doing well for 75, Eleanor. Your heart is good. Blood pressure normal. Cholesterol managed. Keep doing what you're doing. I wanted to ask him about my memory, about confusion, about whether I was losing myself. But Marcus was in the room, standing by the door, listening. So I smiled and said thank you and let the doctor move on to the next patient. On the drive home, Marcus was on his phone, texting. I could see the screen from the corner of my eye. Not the words, just the glow. The constant motion of his thumbs. "Who are you texting?" I asked. He put the phone down. "Work. Always work." We pulled into the driveway and he helped me out of the car. That gentle hand on my elbow. That patient voice. "Careful, Mom. Watch your step." Like I was fragile. Breakable. Maybe I was. Or maybe he wanted me to think I was. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I got up at 2 a.m, walked downstairs in my nightgown. The house was dark, quiet. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, stood at the sink looking out at the backyard. The neighbor's security light was on, casting shadows across our fence. I thought about my husband, about how he'd stood at this same sink every morning making coffee, about how safe I'd felt when he was alive, about how nothing had felt safe since he died. I heard a sound. Upstairs, Marcus's door opening, footsteps. I held still, listened. He came downstairs, didn't turn on any lights, went straight to the living room. I heard him open something. A drawer, maybe, papers rustling. Then his voice. Low, quiet, on the phone. "Yeah, it's almost done. Another month, maybe 2. She doesn't suspect anything. She's too far gone. Trust me. It's handled." My hands started shaking. The water glass slipped, crashed into the sink. The sound was loud in the quiet house. Everything stopped. Then his footsteps. Fast. Coming toward the kitchen. He flipped on the light. "Mom, what are you doing up?" I stared at him, my mouth open. No words coming out. He looked worried. "Are you okay? Did you fall?" "Come on, let's get you back to bed. You're confused. You need to sleep." He took my arm, led me upstairs, tucked me into bed like I was a child. His voice so gentle, so concerned. "You've got to be more careful, Mom. Walking around in the dark. You could hurt yourself." I lay there after he left, staring at the ceiling, replaying what I'd heard. She's too far gone. She doesn't suspect anything. It's handled. What was handled? What was almost done? The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. Made breakfast, smiled, asked about his day. He left for work in his silver Nissan. I watched him drive away. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through his things. Started in his bedroom, opened drawers, looked in his closet, found clothes I'd never seen, shoes, cologne bottles, a whole wardrobe I didn't recognize. In his desk, I found papers, bank statements, not from our bank, a different bank, an account in his name. I pulled out the statements and sat on his bed. Started reading. Deposits. Every month. Large deposits. My Social Security check. The amount matched exactly. My husband's pension. That too. Going into his account, not mine, for 8 months. I kept reading. More deposits. Larger ones. From the sale of items. My mother's jewelry. My husband's tools. My grandmother's china. All sold. All deposited. I felt the room tilt. Felt my breath catch. This couldn't be right. He'd told me we needed to sell those things. To pay bills. To keep the house. To afford groceries. But the money hadn't gone to bills. It had gone to him. I kept digging. Found more statements. Credit cards. In his name. Showing purchases. Expensive purchases. That leather jacket. The suits. The watch. Restaurant charges. Hotel charges. Charges in cities I'd never been to. Travel. Entertainment. A life I knew nothing about. And at the bottom of the drawer, underneath everything else, I found a folder. Real estate documents. For a condo. Downtown Oakland. In one of those new buildings. In his name. Purchase agreement. Signed 3 months ago. My vision blurred. My hands couldn't hold the papers steady. I spread them out on his bed, looked at all of it. The evidence. The proof. The truth I'd been too afraid to see. He'd been stealing from me. For months. Maybe longer. Using my confusion. My trust. My fear of being abandoned. He'd convinced me I couldn't manage my own life, convinced everyone around me. And while they all praised him for being such a devoted son, he'd been systematically taking everything. I sat there on his bed for an hour, maybe 2, trying to process it, trying to understand how my own child could do this. The boy I'd raised, fed, clothed, loved. The man I'd defended to his ex-wife when she'd left him. The son I'd opened my home to when he said he needed help. When he said he wanted to take care of me. This whole time, every gentle word, every patient smile, every time he'd told me not to worry, it had all been a lie. I heard a car in the driveway. He was home early. I scrambled to put everything back, closed the drawers, smoothed the bed, got downstairs just as his key turned in the lock. I was standing in the kitchen when he came in, smiling, trying to look normal. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he'd hear it. "Hey, Mom, how was your day?" "Fine," I said. "Quiet. Just cleaned a little. Made some lunch." He nodded. Grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. "I'm going to take a shower. Then I've got some work to do." He went upstairs. I heard the water start. I stood in the kitchen trying to figure out what to do. Who to call. Who to tell. The pastor? He'd just say I was confused. The doctor? Same thing. The police? And say what? My son is stealing from me, but I can't prove it because everyone thinks I'm losing my mind? I felt trapped, backed into a corner, exactly where he wanted me. I went to my bedroom, sat on the edge of my bed, looked at the hymnal on my nightstand, my mother's hymnal. I opened it, started reading her notes. Trust God. He sees. He knows. He will make a way. I wasn't sure I believed that anymore, but I didn't have anywhere else to turn. So I prayed. For the first time in months, I prayed something other than empty words. I prayed for clarity, for strength, for help, for someone to believe me. The phone rang. Downstairs. I heard Marcus answer it, heard his voice, friendly, warm, then different, tense. "No. I told you not to call the house. I'll call you back." He hung up. I stayed in my room, heard him pace, heard him dial his cell phone, heard him talking again. Lower now. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear, angry, frustrated, under pressure. That night at dinner, he was different, distracted, short with me. When I asked if everything was okay, he snapped. "Everything's fine, just work stress. Can we not talk about it?" I nodded, ate my food in silence, watched him push his around his plate. He left most of it, said he wasn't hungry, went upstairs. I heard his door close, heard him on the phone again, the conversation going on for hours. I cleaned up dinner, did the dishes, wiped down the counters, the whole time thinking about those bank statements, those purchase receipts, that condo downtown. He'd been planning this for a long time, building a separate life, using my money, my house, my trust, all of it. And when he was done, when he'd taken everything, what then? Senior housing, the email had said. He'd dump me somewhere, get rid of the burden, start his new life. I went to bed, but I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to him move around upstairs, listening to him talk on the phone, listening to the house creak and settle. This house, my house, the one my husband and I bought 40 years ago, the one we raised Marcus in, the one we'd planned to leave to him someday. When we were dead, not before, not like this. The next morning, Wednesday, I got up early. Before Marcus. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, waited. He came down at 7, grabbed his coffee mug, told me he'd be late again tonight. Client dinner. Don't wait up. I nodded, said okay, watched him leave. Then I did something I'd never done before. I called his work, asked to speak to Marcus. The receptionist said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Marcus hasn't worked here in over a year. He resigned last January." "Are you sure?" I asked. "Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to transfer you to his replacement?" "No," I said. "Thank you." I hung up. My hands were shaking again. He hadn't worked there in a year. A year. Every morning, getting dressed, leaving the house, coming home stressed and tired, complaining about work, about clients, about his boss. All of it a lie. So where had he been going? What had he been doing? I thought about that woman at the cafe, about the hotel charges on his credit card statement, about the life he'd built that I knew nothing about. I sat at that kitchen table for 2 hours, just thinking, processing, trying to sort through the fog in my brain and find something solid to hold on to. The truth kept slipping away from me, like water through my fingers. He'd made me doubt everything. My memory, my perception, my understanding of reality. But that phone call to his work, that was real. That was solid. He'd lied about everything. At noon, I did something else I'd never done. I walked to the public library, 6 blocks. It took me 30 minutes, but I made it. I asked the librarian to help me use a computer, to look up information. She was patient, kind, showed me how to search. I typed in financial elder abuse. Pages of information came up. I started reading, started learning, started understanding. Financial exploitation of the elderly. When someone in a position of trust uses that position to steal money or property. Signs include isolation, confusion about finances, sudden changes in banking patterns, new people showing unusual interest in the elder's affairs, forged signatures on documents. That was me. All of it. Every single sign. I wasn't losing my mind. I was being manipulated, systematically, deliberately, by my own son. I printed out pages of information. The librarian helped me. She looked at me with concerned eyes. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "I'm not sure," I said, "but I'm going to find out." I walked home slowly, the printed pages in my purse. Evidence. Knowledge. Something concrete to hold on to when he told me I was confused. That night when he came home, I didn't mention it. Just made dinner, served his plate, listened to him talk about his fake job, about the fake client dinner he hadn't actually gone to. I smiled, nodded, played along, but inside something had shifted. The fog was clearing. I could see him now, really see him, and what I saw made me sick. Thursday morning, exactly 1 week since I'd seen him at the cafe. I was sitting in my bedroom when I heard his phone ring, heard him answer it downstairs, heard his voice rise, frustrated, angry. "Fine. Yes. I'll take care of it. I'll handle it. Just give me another month." He hung up, slammed his hand on something, then silence. I waited, heard him leave the house, the car starting, driving away. I went downstairs, looked around. His laptop was on the dining room table, open. He'd left in such a hurry he'd forgotten to close it. I walked over slowly, looked at the screen. An email. Open. Right there. From a real estate agent. "Marcus, thank you for the payment on your new condo. As we discussed, the sale of the duplex is scheduled for next month. All documents are ready for your mother's signature. Have you found suitable senior housing for her, or should I provide recommendations? Best regards." I read it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. My hands were shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. He was selling my house, the duplex, my home, the place I'd lived for 40 years, without telling me, without asking me. He'd forged my signature, or he was planning to, or he'd somehow convinced me I'd agreed when I hadn't. The email kept saying your mother's signature, like I was a technicality, a problem to solve, not a person, not his mother, just an obstacle. I sat down at the table, stared at that email. Something inside me broke. Or maybe it was something that had been broken for a long time, finally snapping the rest of the way. I started crying. Not the quiet kind. The kind that comes from deep in your chest. The kind that makes you gasp for air. Everything I'd lost. Everything he'd taken. My dignity. My autonomy. My sense of self. He'd made me believe I was losing my mind so he could take everything else. The crying stopped eventually, left me empty, hollow. I sat there staring at the laptop, at that email. And then I started clicking, opening files, reading documents. There was so much. Bank statements going back 2 years, correspondence with the real estate agent, documents about the sale, his purchase of the condo, financial statements showing every penny he'd taken. It was all there. Everything. He'd kept it all on his laptop because he didn't think I'd ever look. Didn't think I was capable. Thought I was too far gone to figure it out. I remembered the librarian, the printed pages about elder abuse, the information I'd read. One of the things it said was to document everything, keep records, get proof. So I started printing, page after page, bank statements, emails, purchase agreements, the real estate correspondence, all of it. The printer ran out of paper. I found more in the desk drawer, kept printing. 2 hours later, I had a stack of documents 3 inches thick. Evidence, proof, the truth. I put it all in a folder, hid it in my bedroom, under my mattress. Old-fashioned but effective. Then I went back downstairs, closed the laptop, put it exactly where he'd left it, erased my tracks, made lunch like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Everything had changed. He came home that afternoon, saw his laptop on the table, picked it up, looked at it, looked at me. "Did you use my computer?" "No," I said. "I don't know how." "Good," he said, "because it's got work stuff on it. Private information. You understand?" I nodded, smiled. "I understand." He went upstairs with it. I stood in the kitchen and felt something I hadn't felt in years: power, control, knowledge. He thought I was helpless, but I had proof now. I had evidence. I had the truth. That night, I lay in bed thinking about what to do next, who to tell, how to proceed. The information I'd printed said to find a lawyer, one who specialized in elder abuse, financial exploitation, but I didn't know any lawyers, didn't know where to start. Then I remembered something, someone, Marcus's ex-wife, Lisa. I hadn't spoken to her in 5 years, not since the divorce. I'd taken his side, believed his version, thought she'd abandoned him. But now I wondered. Friday morning, Marcus left early, said he had appointments all day, wouldn't be home until late. After he left, I looked in the folder I'd hidden, found his address book, found Lisa's phone number, sat there staring at it for 10 minutes, working up the courage. Then I dialed. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello?" "This is Eleanor," I said. "Marcus's mother." There was a long pause. "Eleanor. Hi. I know we haven't spoken in a long time." "I know, but I need to talk to you. About Marcus." Another pause. "Okay, can we meet?" "Yes. Today." "Where?" "We met at a coffee shop downtown. I took the bus. 40 minutes. Lisa was already there when I arrived. She stood up when she saw me. Looked older, tired, but kind. Eleanor." She hugged me. I almost started crying right there. We sat down, ordered coffee, and then I told her everything. The bank statements, the stolen money, the fake job, the condo, the plan to sell my house, all of it. She listened without interrupting. Her face got harder as I talked. More set. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. "He did the same thing to me," she said. "The same manipulation. The same lies. He told everyone I was unstable, that I was imagining things, that I was jealous and paranoid. He isolated me from friends, from family, controlled all our money, made me think I was crazy. By the time I figured it out, I'd lost everything: my savings, my career, my confidence. It took me 3 years to rebuild my life. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "I tried," she said. "But you didn't believe me. No one did. He's very good at what he does. He makes people believe he's the victim, the devoted son, the patient husband. Meanwhile, he's taking everything." "I'm sorry," I said. "I should have listened." "It's okay. You're listening now. That's what matters." She asked if I had proof. I told her about the documents. She smiled. "That's good. That's really good. You need a lawyer. I know someone. Someone who helped me. Someone who specializes in cases like this. Can you call them?" "Yes. I'll call them right now." She pulled out her phone, made the call, explained the situation, set up an appointment for Monday morning. When she hung up, she looked at me with something like pride. "You're going to be okay, Eleanor. You're stronger than you think." We talked for another hour. She told me her story, how Marcus had convinced her she was losing her mind, how he'd gaslit her for years, how she'd finally escaped, how hard it had been to start over, but how worth it, how free she felt now. I listened and I thought about my own life, about how small I'd made myself, how I'd accepted his version of reality, how I'd let him convince me I was incompetent, confused, helpless. I wasn't those things. I'd never been those things. He'd just needed me to believe I was so he could take what he wanted. When I got home that afternoon, Marcus was already there. Early. He looked at me with suspicion. "Where were you?" "Out." "Where?" "Just running errands." "What errands?" "The library? The store?" His eyes narrowed. "You took the bus?" "Yes." "By yourself?" "I'm 75. Not 90. I can take the bus." He didn't like that answer. Didn't like me going places without him, doing things independently. It threatened his story, his narrative, the confused, helpless mother who needed him. Over the weekend, I was careful. Didn't give anything away. Made meals, cleaned, sang hymns, acted exactly like I always had. But inside, I was different. I kept thinking about Monday, about the lawyer, about what would happen when I told someone official, someone with power, someone who could help. Sunday morning, I went to church alone again. Marcus said he had work. I sat in the choir section, sang all 4 verses of Amazing Grace, my voice strong, clear. After the service, the pastor came up to me. "Sister Eleanor, you sounded especially beautiful today." "Thank you, Pastor. I feel good today." "That's wonderful. How's Marcus?" "He's fine. Working hard." The pastor nodded, smiled. Such a good son. I didn't correct him. Not yet. But soon. Monday morning, the lawyer's office was downtown. Lisa met me there. We went in together. The lawyer was a woman, mid-50s, sharp eyes, kind smile. She shook my hand, invited us to sit. "I'm Sarah. Lisa told me about your situation." I brought the folder, 3 inches of documents, laid it on her desk. "This is everything." She opened it, started reading. Her expression didn't change, but her hands moved faster, flipping pages, scanning, taking notes. After 20 minutes, she looked up. "Eleanor, this is extensive. This is systematic financial exploitation. We can help you." She explained the process. Filing for financial elder abuse, getting a restraining order, freezing his access to my accounts, investigating the property transfer. It would take time. It would be difficult. But it was possible. "I have to ask," she said. "Are you prepared for this? For what it means? He's your son." "I know. Are you prepared to hold him accountable?" I thought about everything he'd taken, everything he'd stolen. Not just money, not just property. He'd stolen my sense of self, my confidence, my dignity. Yes, I said. I'm prepared. We spent 3 hours going through everything. Sarah took copies of all my documents, had me sign papers, explained my rights, the law, what I could expect. When we left her office, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. Lisa hugged me goodbye, told me to call her if I needed anything, told me I was brave. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. But I also felt certain. This was right. This was necessary. That afternoon, I went home. Marcus wasn't there. I sat in the kitchen, looked around at my duplex, my home, the place I'd lived for 40 years, the place he was trying to steal. I thought about my husband, about how proud he'd be that I was fighting back, about how disappointed he'd be in our son, in what Marcus had become, in what he'd done. The next few days were quiet. Marcus didn't notice anything different. I played my part. The confused elderly mother, the helpless woman who needed him, but I was gathering more evidence, watching him, listening, taking notes. Sarah had said documentation was key, so I documented everything, every lie, every manipulation, every time he checked my purse to see where I'd been, every time he went through my things looking for something to use against me. On Thursday, Sarah called. We have the restraining order. We're freezing his accounts. We're filing charges. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., the police will serve him the papers. I need you to not be home when that happens. Can you arrange that? Yes. I'll go to Lisa's. Good. After he's served, after he leaves, you can return. We'll have someone there with you to change the locks, to make sure you're safe. Thank you. You're welcome, Eleanor. You're doing the right thing. That night I packed a small bag. Just essentials, clothes, toiletries, the hymnal. I hid it in my closet. In the morning, I'd grab it and go. Marcus would never see it coming. He thought I was too far gone, too confused, too helpless. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Friday morning, Marcus left for his fake job at 8. I waited 15 minutes. Then I called Lisa. I'm ready. She came to get me. We drove to her apartment across town. Small, clean, quiet, safe. She made coffee. We sat on her couch, waited. My hands were shaking. What if he gets violent? I asked. The police will be there. They know the situation. They'll handle it. But what if he talks his way out of it? He can't. You have documentation, evidence, proof. He can't talk his way out of the truth. At 9:30, Sarah called. It's done. He's been served. He's very angry, but he's left the property. The locks are being changed now. You can go home in an hour. How did he react? Like most abusers when they lose control. Denial. Anger. Threats. But the police made it clear. He has to stay away. He violates the restraining order. He goes to jail. Good. I'll be there in an hour. Lisa drove me home. There was a locksmith's van in the driveway, a police car. Sarah was on the porch. She waved when she saw us. Come on in. Everything's secure. I walked into my house, my home. It felt different already. Lighter. Mine again. The locksmith handed me new keys. All the locks have been changed. Front door, back door, windows. He can't get in. Thank you. Over the next few weeks, Sarah worked on my case, gathering more evidence, building the legal argument. Marcus tried to contact me. Phone calls, texts, emails, claiming I was confused, that I didn't understand, that he was trying to help me, that I was being manipulated by Lisa, by the lawyer, that I needed him. Sarah forwarded everything to the police. More evidence of his manipulation, more proof of his pattern. His ex-wife became my unexpected ally, the person I'd blamed, the person I'd thought abandoned my son. She'd been trying to escape, just like I was now. We spent hours talking, comparing stories.
realizing how similar our experiences had been, how he'd used the same tactics on both of us, how good he was at making people doubt themselves, how he'd isolated each of us in different ways. But now we were together, supporting each other, no longer alone. A month later, the case went before a judge. I had to give a deposition, 4 hours of questions, recounting every detail, every lie, every theft, every manipulation. It was exhausting, painful, but necessary. The judge reviewed all the evidence, the bank statements, the forged documents, the emails, everything. He ruled in my favor, ordered Marcus to pay restitution, ordered him to stay away, made it official, legal, real. But here's the thing nobody tells you about justice. Sometimes it's not what you think it'll be. Marcus had already spent most of the money. The condo was mortgaged. His assets were minimal. The lawyer said we could pursue further legal action, try to recover more. But it would take years, cost more than I'd likely recover. Sometimes, she said, you have to decide what kind of justice you want, financial or freedom. I chose freedom. I let go of trying to get back every dollar, let go of making him pay for every theft. Because holding on to that anger, that need for revenge, it would have kept me tied to him. And what I wanted more than money was to be free. Completely free. Of him. Of his manipulation. Of his control. Of his presence in my life. I sold the duplex. Legally, properly, with my name on every paper, with Sarah reviewing every document. I sold it for a fair price to a young couple with a baby, people who would fill it with love and laughter, not lies and manipulation. I took that money, and I did what I'd always dreamed about. I rented a small apartment by the ocean, north of Oakland, up the coast, where the fog rolls in thick and clean every morning. One afternoon before I moved, I went through the duplex one last time, room by room, saying goodbye. In the living room, I found his favorite chair, that ugly recliner he'd claimed was his spot, the one he'd sit in every evening, the one that took up so much space. I looked at it for a long time, then I dragged it to the curb, put it out with the trash, my liberation symbol, throwing away his favorite chair that took up space, reclaiming my home, my life, my space. My rebirth came through simplicity. I embraced quiet freedom and solitude. The apartment by the ocean is small. 1 bedroom, a kitchen, a living room with windows facing the water. I don't have much furniture. Don't need much, just the essentials. A bed, a table, a comfortable chair, my mother's hymnal on the nightstand, some clothes, some books. That's it. That's all I need. Every morning I wake up to the sound of waves. I make coffee, sit by the window, watch the fog. Sometimes I take walks on the beach, slowly, carefully, but on my own time, my own terms. No one checking on me, no one questioning my decisions, no one making me doubt my reality, just me, alone, free. And it's enough, more than enough. It's everything. Lisa visits sometimes. We have coffee, talk about our lives, about what we've learned, about how good it feels to be free. She's proud of me. I'm proud of her. We're survivors, both of us. We got out. We reclaimed ourselves. That's worth more than any amount of money. The church choir doesn't have me anymore. I don't go to services. Don't need that community, that judgment. Those people who said what a devoted son, who believed his lies, who never questioned. I sing hymns alone now, in my apartment, with my mother's hymnal, just me and the memory of her voice. And that's enough too. Sometimes I think about Marcus, wonder where he is, what he's doing, if he thinks about what he did, if he has any regret. But those thoughts don't last long, don't hurt like they used to. He's not my son anymore. Not really. The boy I raised died a long time ago. Or maybe he never existed. Maybe I just wanted to believe he did. Either way, he's gone. And I'm here. Still standing. Still breathing. Still alive. People ask me sometimes how I did it. How I found the courage to fight back. How I left everything behind. How I started over at 75. And I tell them the truth. I didn't find courage. Courage found me, when I had no other choice. When staying would have meant losing myself completely. When fighting back was the only way to survive. That's when courage shows up. Not before. Right when you need it. What I want you to understand, if you're listening to this story and recognizing pieces of your own life, is that you have legal rights. More than you know. More than anyone's told you. The law protects you, even when your family doesn't. Even when the people who are supposed to love you are the ones hurting you. You have rights, and you can fight back. Here's what I learned. What I wish someone had told me years ago. The WHO estimates that nearly 16% of seniors in communities suffer abuse every year. 16%. That's 1 in 6. You're not alone. You're not imagining it. It's real. It's happening. And it's more common than anyone wants to admit. Research proves that half of all people with dementia experience abuse. Half. The very people who are most vulnerable, most in need of protection. They're the ones being targeted, being exploited, being manipulated. But here's what they don't tell you in those statistics. Here's what's not in the research. You have power. Even when you think you don't. Even when everyone's telling you you're confused, that you're forgetting, that you can't manage your own life. You have power. Your property remains yours unless you legally, willingly, with full mental capacity, transfer it. Confusion doesn't equal incapacity. Memory problems don't mean you lose your autonomy. You still have rights. You still have ownership. You still have control. Get your own lawyer. That's the first thing. Not a family lawyer. Not someone your son or daughter recommends. Your own independent lawyer. Someone who represents you. Only you. Not your family's interests. Not what's convenient for everyone else. Your interests, your rights, your property. Pay for it yourself if you can. Use your own money. Don't let anyone else control the legal relationship. That lawyer works for you, answers to you, protects you. Keep your own bank account. Never, and I mean never, give anyone else full access to your money. Not your children, not your grandchildren, not anyone who says they're trying to help. You can set up limited access if you need help paying bills, but full control? Never. That's how it starts. That's how they take everything. One transaction at a time. Until you have nothing left and they're living the life they stole from you. Read every paper before you sign. Every single one. I don't care if it takes you an hour. If you need glasses, get glasses. If you need someone to read it to you, hire someone independent. Not family. Not the person asking you to sign. Someone neutral. Someone with no stake in what happens. Read it. Understand it. And if you don't understand it, don't sign it. Ever. No matter who's pushing you. No matter how much they say it's urgent. It can wait until you understand. And here's the most important thing. The thing I want you to really hear. If someone tells you that you're too old, too confused, too far gone to understand your own life, they're lying. They're lying. You know more than they want you to believe. You understand more than they're giving you credit for. That fog in your brain? That confusion? Sometimes it's real. Sometimes it's age. Sometimes it's illness. But sometimes it's manufactured. Created deliberately by people who benefit from your confusion. Who need you to doubt yourself so they can control you? Trust that woman you used to be. Or that man. That person who was strong, capable, certain, who bought the house, raised the children, built the life. That person is still in there, still present, still aware. You haven't lost yourself. You've been told you lost yourself. There's a difference, a big difference. And when you can see that difference, when you can separate their narrative from your reality, that's when you get your power back. I'm 75 years old. I live alone. I have less money than I should, less stuff, less security. But I have something I didn't have before. I have myself back, my mind, my dignity, my autonomy, my right to make my own decisions, my right to be wrong sometimes, my right to forget where I put my keys without that meaning I've lost my mind, my right to live my life on my terms until the day I die. And you know what? Sometimes I imagine myself in a BMW 7 Series in sleek silver, driving up the coast with the windows down, the wind in my hair, the ocean beside me, free, completely free. Maybe someday I'll actually do it. Rent one for a day, take that drive, feel that freedom in a tangible way. Or maybe I won't. Maybe the image is enough. The possibility. The knowledge that I could if I wanted to. That's freedom too. My days are simple now. Quiet. I wake up, make coffee, watch the fog, take walks, read books, sing hymns, cook small meals just for myself, visit with Lisa. That's it. That's my life. And it's a good life. A peaceful life. A life I chose. Not one someone else designed for me. Not one I was manipulated into. Mine. Fully mine. I think about the woman I was 3 years ago, standing at that stove stirring black-eyed peas, making myself small, accepting humiliation, believing the lies, doubting my own mind. She feels like a stranger now, someone I used to know but don't anymore. I don't miss her. I don't want to be her again. But I'm grateful to her, because she survived long enough to become me, to find the strength to fight back, to reclaim what was stolen, to walk away. That takes something. Something deep. Something strong. Something that doesn't die even when you think it has. If you're in a similar situation, if someone's making you doubt yourself, taking your money, controlling your life, telling you you're confused when you're not, I want you to know something. You can get out. You can fight back. You can reclaim your life. It won't be easy. It won't be fast. It will hurt. You'll lose people. You'll lose things. But what you'll gain is worth more than any of that. You'll gain yourself. And once you have yourself back, really back, you realize that's all you ever needed. So where are you listening from? Are you in your own home or someone else's? Are you free or are you trapped? Are you living your life or someone else's version of it? Think about that. Really think about it. And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, if it makes your chest tight and your hands shake, that's okay. That's the beginning. That's when you start paying attention. That's when you start gathering evidence. That's when you start planning your way out. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have fought back sooner? Would you have seen the signs earlier? Would you have trusted your gut? Or would you have done exactly what I did, made yourself small and hoped it would be enough? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. I want to hear your stories. Because we're not alone in this. None of us are. We're a community, survivors, fighters, people who refuse to disappear just because someone wants us to. If this story resonated with you, if you see yourself in any part of it, if you know someone who needs to hear this, hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Not for me, for yourself. For the next person who needs to know they're not crazy, they're not confused, they're being manipulated, and they have the power to stop it, to fight back, to reclaim their lives, just like I did. Just like you can too.